Hello, second graders. This week we're continuing on our journey to become animal experts. And this week we're going to be creating animal expert presentations. You've already chosen the animal you wanted to become an expert in, and you've done some research on those animals in Seesaw. So we're going to take that information and we're going to move to the next step. So part one, which we're going to be doing today, is creating note cards. Did you know that you're 7 times more likely to remember something if you write it down? So writing it down is so important if you want to be prepared. Just like when your mom goes to the grocery store or your dad or whoever's in your house, they write a list and then they're more likely to remember what to get, even if they forget the list at home. Because just the act of writing is really important for our brains. So today, I'm going to teach you just how to do this. You're going to need, for this project, you're going to need some note cards if you have them. So what if you don't have note cards? You can just take a regular piece of paper and cut them in half. You're also going to need access to your research. This is Mrs. Walsh's research on the North American river otter. Many of you did this inside Seesaw, so you would just have to open up your Seesaw activity and look at what you wrote to create your note cards. We are not going to write our note cards in Seesaw because it would be difficult to A, remember them. Remember, we want to practice writing, and B, when you're recording, you won't be able to see them when you're recording your presentation. So you need a good old-fashioned piece of paper or note cards and a pencil. All right, so here we go. So when you are going to do an animal presentation, you just don't want to just randomly read facts off the page. Otherwise, your reader or your listener might get bored and they might stop listening. So you want to hook them at the beginning. So let's go over these together. How do you hook your reader or listener in the case of our presentations? You ask a question. What has 5 rows of teeth? Or you share an amazing fact. This one says sharks use more than 10,000 teeth in its life. Exclamation. Watch out. Here comes a shark. Our sound effects, also known as onomatopoeia. Chomp, chomp. Here comes a shark. So when you're beginning your presentation, you definitely want to start with a hook. So friends, you've already done all the heavy lifting or the hard work. You've researched your animal. You went on Capstone and you read books. You looked at National Geographic. You searched the web with an adult. So you know a lot about your animal. So you're going to open up your Seesaw activity and so you will have that as a point of reference. Or if you took notes, you can look at your notes as well. So I have this to the side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my note cards out. I'm going to be sure to number my note cards so I know which one, what order they come in. So I'm going to write 1. And on the first page, we're going to do an opening. So we want to tell our listener what we're going to be teaching them about. But before we get into that, we are going to have our hook. How are we going to get them excited about our presentation? How are we going to get them listening to our presentation? I'm going to think about that as I write down my note card. So I'm going to leave that blank. And then I'm going to write a sentence that will say something like this. Today, you are going to learn all about river otters, because that is the animal I became an expert on. And so that's where I'm going to start that. I'm going to leave that hook. I want to think about, do I want to start with a question or a fun fact? So I'm going to leave that blank. And then the next page, the next one I'm going to do is 2. I'm going to go over to my research and I'm going to talk about what they look like. So the physical characteristics. So that's going to be my physical characteristics. That's my heading. So this is my page. So what do they look like? I'm gonna give a little eyeball here so it remembers what do they look like. And so I'm gonna share what they look like here. So that's the second one I might do. And you might decide to do it in a different order as long as you are organized and clear. Third one I'm gonna do is where do they live? Where do they live? That's my subheading. And I'm going to write, I'm going to share the habitat. So a forest, and then so I would share where they lived, what kind of environment they lived in, if they lived in a savanna or a woodland forest. And then I might share a map of where we can find them in the world. If I have any notes to myself, I'm going to put them in parentheses. I'm going to say show map. So when I'm doing the presentation, then I might want to refer to something behind me or a piece of paper or a drawing that I made. So I'm going to put that in parentheses, show map. So I'm going to answer the habitat of what type of environment they live in, and maybe, if we know, a map of where they live in the world. Third thing we answered is what do they eat? Eat, or their diet. Their diet. I'm going to talk about some, if I were doing my river otters, I would say river otters are carnivores. That means they eat meat. We learned that in our tiger book. River otters are carnivores. I love that word, carnivores. They mainly eat, their main diet is fish. And then I might share some more facts about them, like how they hunt, and how I can answer more things there. So you want to have at least a few pages. You might need more than one note card for your subheading. So I'm on 3. We could then talk 4. We could talk about the life cycle of the river otter, but you would put your name in, your animal in there, and then some interesting facts. So that was number 4, and then 5 is interesting. So interesting facts about river otters. So I would then name some interesting facts. And then the last card will be your closing. And you would say, you might end it with a question, or you can go back to that, how to hook your reader or how to inspire them to learn more. So you could say, I hope you learned a lot about river otters and you're as excited as I am about these creatures because they are awesome. Thanks for listening. So now your job is to go and write your own note cards. So let's go over them one more time. You're going to have, number 1, you're going to have your opening. You're going to hook the reader by maybe doing an interesting fact, an exclamation, onomatopoeia, however you want to hook them. That's your decision. And then you're going to tell them what you're going to be teaching. So today, my example is today you're going to learn all about river otters. So that would be my first card. My second one is physical characteristics, what the animal looks like. My third card I have is where do they live? What habitat do they live in? What kind of habitat? If you looked around where they lived, river otters live next to streams and rivers. And then you might want to put a map of where they live in the world. And then I wrote in parentheses, show map, because if you have something, if you've drawn a picture of their habitat and you want to show it, that would be a great time to show it. And how I put little notes to myself in parentheses. What do they eat? What is their diet? The life cycle of a river otter. So that would be teaching us about how long they live, how many babies they have or pups they have, and then when they become independent. And then interesting facts about your animal. So mine says interesting facts about river otters, but you're going to choose your own animal. And then you're going to do a closing. So then you're going to share